Woman is extraordinarily woke, as everyone is in Hollywood, but she's woke in a way that's quite
How do you go from starring in a beloved Disney classic to making the entire internet despise you? Easy. Just be Rachel Zegler. This girl took a childhood favorite and turned it into a self-righteous woke disaster. She trashed Snow White, insulted its fans, and acted like she was too good for the role while still cashing Disney's checks. And now, that arrogance has completely backfired. Because not only is the movie bombing before it even hits theaters, but Candace Owens is publicly calling her out. And you already know Candace does not hold back.
Disney because they really need a new princess.
Rachel thought she could rewrite a fairy tale to fit her activist fantasy. But guess what? People are done being lectured by out-of-touch, entitled Hollywood elites. So now she's playing the victim, blaming everyone but herself for the disaster she created.
And she's now posted on her social media calling for Trump supporters to be harmed. Like, this is just not even normal. They've already had to delay this film because this woman can't close her mouth, and now she's, calling for violence?
Let's get into why Rachel's entire career is now hanging by a thread and how Candace just delivered the final blow. Rachel Zegler was an absolute nobody before Hollywood handed her a golden ticket. She had her big break yesterday in West Side Story, and suddenly Disney thought she was the perfect choice to lead one of the most beloved fairy tales of all time. But instead of showing an ounce of gratitude, Rachel's big mouth and out-of-touch attitude made her the most despised actress in Hollywood before the movie even came out. She didn't just take the role, she took a flamethrower to everything people loved about it. Rachel mocked the original 1937 classic, called it weird, and bragged about how her version would be nothing like Walt Disney's original version. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, she flat out admitted that the so-called love interest, who isn't even a prince anymore, might not even make the final cut.
Maybe not destroy a classic from my childhood and put an actress in there that not only hates the plot and the storyline of the movie she's in, but also seemingly hates Snow White, the character herself.
So let me get this straight. Disney took one of the most iconic princess stories in history, stripped it of its core elements, and put her in charge of selling it to the audience? Yeah, no wonder this film was dead on arrival. And honestly, the only reason people still talk about Rachel isn't because of her talent. It's because every time she opens her mouth, she digs herself into a deeper hole. She's been given every opportunity, but instead of proving she deserves it, she's made it painfully clear she's entitled, arrogant, and completely clueless about why the internet can't stand her. So let me refresh your memory on just how bad Rachel messed up. The film was already wrapped and in the can and ready to go, but since it had been so scandalized, they had to basically put it on ice. And that's why we didn't hear much from Rachel for some time. From the moment Rachel opened her mouth about Snow White, it was game over. The arrogance, the disdain. She practically rolled her eyes at Walt Disney's original masterpiece like it was some outdated relic that she was here to fix.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
Excuse me? But who exactly asked for this modern twist? Because last time I checked, the entire reason people love Snow White is because it's a timeless classic. But no, that wasn't enough for Rachel. She needed to lecture audiences about how her version was better, like she was doing us a favor. And just when you thought Disney couldn't ruin this movie anymore, oh, they did. They decided the dwarves weren't woke enough. So what did they do? They scrapped them.
Isn't this the one where they actually took the dwarves out of the seven dwarves?
Yes,
Yep.
We have CGI dwarves now.
Okay, yeah, because little people didn't need jobs either.
Yeah.
But
And let's be real, this wasn't about fixing Snow White. It was about pandering to the loudest voices on Twitter while completely ignoring the people who actually grew up loving this story. So yeah, the backlash was instant. The only surprise here is that Disney was shocked by it. They put this disaster on ice for months, hoping people would forget about it. But guess what? We didn't. And now that it's finally set to be released, all that outrage, it's coming right back, and it's worse than ever. You'd think after months of backlash, Rachel Zegler would have learned to keep her head down, smile for the cameras, and at least pretend she respects the audience she's trying to sell this movie to. But nope, Rachel had to just double down. And of course, she didn't make it about Snow White. She went full woke warrior. Just listen to this.
I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred leading us towards a world I do not want to live in, leading us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in, leading us towards a world that will force her to have a baby she doesn't want, leading us towards a world that is...
Right when everyone was already side-eyeing this disastrous remake, she had to drag Trump into it, like that had anything to do with a fairy tale movie. Give me a break. The hysteria, the melodrama, this is the same Rachel who openly trashed Walt Disney's original version, but now she wants us to believe she's some moral authority on politics, culture, and women's rights. Please. And let's be real, this wasn't some deep, heartfelt moment. This was a PR stunt, a desperate last-ditch effort to distract from the fact that nobody wants to see her version of Snow White, which of course backfired spectacularly. And for extra woke points, she threw in the usual Trump is a danger to women and minorities narrative. Because apparently, being universally disliked for your own actions isn't enough. She had to blame Trump for why people can't stand her. Listen to her have a borrowed midlife crisis.
I shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I am heartbroken for my friends who awoke with fear this morning. And I am here with you to cry, to yell, to hug.
And if that wasn't cringy enough, wasn't unstable enough, Rachel Zegler actually went full unhinged and called for violence against Trump voters. Yeah, you heard that right. She's not just whining about Trump. She's not just fear-mongering about women's rights. She straight up implied that violence is the answer. May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. F Donald Trump. This isn't just some dumb Hollywood actress virtue signaling anymore. This is dangerous rhetoric. This is the same kind of talk that gets people doxxed, H'd, and even attacked in real life. And of course, she's saying all of this while safely sitting in her million-dollar Hollywood bubble, where she'll never have to deal with the consequences of what she's encouraging. Because let's be real, if a conservative actress had said anything remotely similar, she'd be blacklisted overnight.
Oh, man.
Hello, Disney. You're going to have to redo your film again because this woman is... And you fired Gina Carano for far less than this nonsense.
Honestly, at this point, this isn't even about politics anymore. This is just straight up immature, attention-seeking behavior from someone who's desperate to stretch her 15 minutes of fame as far as she can. And in the process, she's making an absolute fool of herself.
It doesn't need to be rescued by a prince and just attacks the film that is the cornerstone of everything Disney's built. They have this like PR move where she goes and she's like, no, actually, I love Snow White. It's a very nice story. And she steps in it again. And this comes at a time when Disney stock keeps going down.
Yeah, this is what happens when an ungrateful actress gets handed a career on a silver platter and still thinks the world owes her more.
A Disney film with Snow White, a beloved American character, with a woman who hates more than half the country, the half that just elected Donald Trump. This is an incredible pivot point right now.
It's been an absolute whirlwind of drama ever since this train wreck of a movie came out. And to say that it tanked, that would be an understatement. Rachel Zegler is rightfully being blamed for the disaster, and honestly, it's not a far stretch from the truth. Because let's be real, casting Rachel as Snow White was one of the worst casting decisions of all time. Like, who in their right mind looked at this girl and thought, yes, this is the perfect person to lead one of Disney's most iconic films? Rachel didn't just fail at playing Snow White, she actively went out of her way to ruin the film before it even hit theaters. She trashed the original, insulted fans, and somehow thought that an entitled anti-princess, woke-fueled take on one of the most beloved fairy tales of all time was going to win people over? Well, it didn't. And right on cue, after getting swift backlash, Rachel Zegler did what every woke celebrity does when they face consequences. She backpedaled. But let's be honest here, she didn't actually mean any of it. Not a chance. Reports even revealed that Disney had to hire a social media guru to babysit her online presence because they knew she was a walking PR disaster. Imagine that. Disney, a company that literally embraces woke nonsense, still had to put her on a leash to stop her from embarrassing them further. But the damage was already done, and when the dust settled, Rachel put out the classic non-apology. I would like to sincerely apologize for the election post I shared on my Instagram last week. I let my emotions get the best of me. Hatred and anger have caused us to move further and further away from peace and understanding, and I am sorry I contributed to the negative discourse. The only reason she apologized was because Disney knew they had a multi-million-dollar disaster on their hands, and they were desperately trying to salvage whatever they could. But it was too little, too late, because at the end of the day, audiences saw right through that act. Well, it looks like Rachel's reckless behavior might be finally catching up to her. Candace Owens just dropped a major bombshell, revealing that there's a very real chance Disney will hold Rachel accountable for her outrageous comments. And let's be real, Disney has every reason to. They've lost millions because of her big mouth, and at this point, cutting her loose might be the only way they can save face.
Disney must have some clause in there that she's not allowed to go out and just eliminate her entire audience by being a psychopath and by calling for harm and no peace for a Trump supporter.
Fans really hope Disney drops her, not just because she's insufferable, but because this is what happens when you trash the very people who pay to see your movies. They believe that Disney will make way more money if they ditch Rachel and replace her with someone who actually respects the fans and the legacy of Snow White. And if you're someone who voted for Trump, or honestly, if you're just someone with basic morals and principles, you should boycott this movie. Fans are determined not to give Disney a single penny until they learn their lesson. Because the only way Hollywood stops shoving this nonsense down our throats is if we hit them where it hurts, at the box office. Just recently, things went from bad to absolute disaster behind the scenes. A Variety report just exposed how Disney has been in full meltdown mode over Rachel Zegler for years now. And honestly, can you blame them? They literally had to coach her into tweeting something positive about Snow White. Just a simple, "Yay, I'm so excited to play her." And guess what? It actually worked. The tweet got millions of views. But Rachel being Rachel couldn't help herself. Minutes later, she followed it up with, "And never forget Free Palestine." And that's when all hell broke loose.
Raised the studio's concerns with Zegler's team while the film's producer, Mark Platt, flew to New York to speak directly with her. Shocking.
And here's where it gets even messier. Her co-star, Gal Gadot, is Jewish and Israeli. Rachel's tweet sparked a firestorm that led to Gal receiving death threats. Yeah, actual death threats. Disney panicked. They flew out a top executive to personally beg Rachel just to take her tweet down. They weren't even asking her to change her views, just to not sabotage the movie by alienating audiences. And what did Rachel do? She refused. One of her insiders spilled she didn't understand the repercussions of her actions as far as what that meant for the film, for Gal, for anyone. So Disney had to literally hire a full-time social media consultant to babysit her online. Yes, she needed a handler just to keep her from ruining their multi-million-dollar movie even more. This isn't just unprofessional, it's outright embarrassing. This girl has done nothing but destroy every opportunity handed to her, and somehow she still thinks she's the victim. Rachel didn't just tank Snow White, she turned the entire production into a circus. At this point, it's not even about woke casting anymore. It's about hiring people who actually respect the job they're given. And Rachel, she clearly doesn't. And here's where Disney completely fumbled the bag. According to a top Hollywood agent, Disney let Rachel Zegler control the narrative from day one. The first time she shoots her mouth off, you nip it in the bud, they said. But instead, Disney did nothing. And once audiences saw that Disney was just going to let her trash the original film, alienate fans, and double down on controversy, the backlash only grew worse. And it's no surprise, because at this point, Disney is terrified of touching anything remotely political. Remember what happened in 2024? Gina Carano sued Disney after she was fired from The Mandalorian for expressing her opinions. So now Disney is too scared to rein in Rachel Zegler, even when she's literally sinking their film. Box office expert Jeff Bach said it best. They say all press is good press, but in Snow White's case, they were unabashedly wrong. Too much negative controversy surrounded this film for years, and it didn't help that the reviews were subpar, likely rendering this latest live-action adventure to a D+ for many potential ticket buyers. A possible saving grace? A feeble marketplace where Snow White could stay a while, as many family films have, despite the lackluster debut. At this point, it's not just audiences and fans turning against Rachel Zegler, even Disney's upper management is fed up with her. Just recently, Jonah Platt, the son of Snow White's producer Mark Platt, took to Instagram to call Rachel out, and he didn't hold back. His response to accusations that his dad had been harassing Zegler over her political views? Jonah Platt set the record straight. Yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. Variety reported that Mark Platt personally had to get involved after Rachel posted an anti-Israel message while promoting the film in August. So what did Disney do? They literally sent one of their top producers to fly across the country to try and fix the damage. And did Rachel back down? Nope. You cannot make this up. At this point, Rachel Zegler isn't just a PR disaster, she's a full-blown liability. The numbers are in, and Disney's Snow White just made history, but for all the wrong reasons. Opening weekend, a dismal $43 million. That's officially the worst debut for any Disney live-action remake. Even Dumbo managed to pull in $46 million, and that movie was already considered a failure. But guess what? Rachel Zegler managed to outflop Dumbo. The movie was projected to hit $100 million globally, but it barely scraped together $87 million. So now let's talk budgets. Disney spent $270 million before marketing on this disaster, and there's no way they're making that money back. Even the entertainment media, which usually runs cover for Disney, is struggling to come up with excuses. One outlet actually blamed the failure on the age of Snow White. Yep, they said that an 88-year-old fairy tale just doesn't appeal to modern female audiences. Oh, really? Then explain this. Cinderella was based on a 65-year-old movie, and it opened to $68 million domestically and grossed $542 million worldwide. And Beauty and the Beast was from 1991 and pulled in over $1.2 billion. So what's the real problem? It's not the age of Snow White. It's Rachel Zegler and Disney's woke agenda. They butchered a beloved classic, trashed the original, alienated audiences, and now they're shocked that no one showed up. Honestly, this might go down as one of Disney's biggest financial disasters, and they have no one to blame but themselves.
Go woke, go broke, but also don't alienate half of the country when you're putting out a product meant to appeal to all. It's the Michael Jordan Republicans buy sneakers too.
At this point, Rachel Zegler is completely delusional. Her movie is tanking. Disney is losing hundreds of millions because of her. She's one of the most hated actresses in Hollywood right now, and yet she still thinks she's winning. After all the backlash, all the scandals, and all the drama, you'd think she'd finally get the message, right? Nope.
Everyone who hates when I win. The winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them,
she's a good actress,
that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
It would be really interesting to see what Rachel's future in Hollywood looks like, because it's not looking pretty. Now, I gotta hear from you. Do you think Rachel Zegler's career is officially over? Or do you think Disney will still try to salvage it? Should Hollywood stop casting actors who alienate their audiences with woke nonsense? Do you agree with Candace Owens? Should Rachel be held accountable for the massive financial disaster she caused? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get this conversation going. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into the woke madness. See you at the next one.